Greetings and welcome to another of our series of weekly devotionals where we take a look at some lectionary readings and offer some thoughts for reflection. And this week we're actually going to be looking at readings during the season of Advent. Actually, last week's readings, we got a little bit of a mix-up in our scheduling, but at any rate, I'm sure none of you out there in Cyberland are going to mind. So today I'm going to begin with looking at a reading from the prophet Isaiah in chapter 11. And one of the first theme of Advent, week one of every season, is hope. And in our Advent devotional study group this past week, we were talking a little bit about hope and sort of the distinction between wishing and hoping. And of course, wishing, at least I tend to think of as a little bit more superficial. When I think of Christmas wishes, the Christmas wishes I had as a kid mostly had to do with the presents under the tree. And sometimes my wishes came true and sometimes they didn't. But hope is a little bit deeper than that. It's a sort of a Christian virtue that we can practice. And hope is a confidence, I think, in things, a confidence in God, even when our wishes don't come true, even when things look a bit bleak. And certainly that's the case in this passage from Isaiah. He writes about hope in the midst of some challenging situations. A shoot shall come out from the stump of Jesse, Isaiah writes, and a branch shall grow out of his roots. Isaiah writes about the stump of a tree. It's barren, it's chopped down, and yet even out of that stump grows a shoot. And of course, for those of us who are Christians, we identify that shoot from the stump of Jesse with Jesus, with the coming Messiah. Back in the days of Isaiah, though I'm not sure that the prophet foretold that particular instance in time. Some folks during Isaiah's time associated that shoot with King Hezekiah of Judah, who did some really wonderful things for the people of Judah at that time. But even at that time, the time of the prophet Isaiah, or ahead a couple of thousand years to the time of Jesus, or even in our time as well, we all know that the world is not often as we would like it to be. That the world can be a challenging place, that the world we inhabit, the world that Isaiah inhabited and King Hezekiah and Jesus and we as well, is not yet the world that God intends. It's not yet the world that we hope for, and yet how do we practice hope during this time? You know, one of my favorite stories, I was asked a few weeks ago what one of my favorite stories was, and I responded, the movie The Shawshank Redemption, and that's a movie all about hope, but it's specifically a movie about hope that persists and endures. The movie tells the story of a man, the main character, who is in prison for a crime he doesn't commit for 20 years. And yet behind the walls, the cold stone gray walls of that prison, he somehow manages to hold on to hope. And that's the kind of hope that is Christian hope, the hope that persists and endures even in the midst of circumstances that might suggest otherwise. So, what would you think, what would you say is the difference between what you might wish for and what you might hope for? What's the difference between Christmas wishes and Advent hope? And what might you be hoping for during this holy season? Amen.